Hello and welcome. I'm Sofiko and this is Creative Minds Speaking, a podcast where I have conversations with creative industry professionals, bringing into the spotlight those incredible people who are behind the scenes of art and entertainment is the main goal of this podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to chat with Alicia Caillier. Alicia is a product manager at Facebook, and before she used to be a product manager at Harmonix Music System. If you're familiar with these companies, you know that these are tech companies. So today we're going to talk about Alicia's journey and a little about tech and music. Hi, Alicia. Thank you for coming on the show. So happy to talk to you today.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited too. So, I always start the conversation by asking my guests to introduce themselves. So, I'd love to know more about your background and your story.
My name's Alicia. I currently live in San Francisco, and I'm originally from Lafayette, Louisiana, which is a smaller town in Louisiana in the South and known for its Cajun food and people. I grew up there and actually have lived all over. I left when I was 17 to go to college at the University of Chicago. And then I wanted what I thought I wanted to be was a doctor. So I was pre med. I finished all my pre med requirements, and I have a really just weird background. It's not linear or traditional. You'll learn that about me, I guess. But I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Finished all the requirements, and then I was miserable in a lot of my science classes, even though I was super good at science and math and stuff in high school. I just lost the desire in college. And so I switched my major to anthropology because I've always been really interested in people and how they behave and their and culture and stuff like that. And I ended up wildly getting into advertising from being a doctor to working at an advertising agency. So I worked at an advertising agency for about 4 years in Chicago, and I love that city. Really miss it a lot. And I always, kind of, I've always been into music, and so from just my time in advertising, I really got to think about what I wanted to do. And I realized that even though, I liked my team and I was relatively good at my job, it wasn't the career that I wanted. So I just wanted to follow my passion, and which is music. And I quit my job and moved to Spain to do the global entertainment and music business program at Berkeley, which you did as well. But a lot, I was older. I mean, not older, but earlier than you. I went like a while back. I feel old. I don't know why. But anyway,
I think you
I
went just earlier, 2 years before me.
no,
That's
I
not.
know, but I feel like 2 years is a lot at Berkeley for some reason. Like, the program is totally different now. But yeah, so I quit my job, went to Berkeley College of Music, did the master's program in global entertainment and music business. And when I went into the program, I was really interested in working in music. I think for me, really interested in fashion and music partnerships and starting my own like company one day, but I realized that I wanted to get more experience first before doing that. And so I took this opportunity to do a postgraduate fellowship with Berkeley ICE, which is the Institute of Creative Entrepreneurship. And I moved to Boston. I'd never been there before. And just moved there with the suitcase, three suitcases and no apartment. So that was wild. Found one in like 3 days. And yeah, I went to work at Harmonix.
So, you said that you always loved music, you were always were into music. Why do you think you were afraid in the beginning, maybe, to pursue this degree in this field? Maybe you weren't really sure that you can have a career in this industry, or maybe there were other reasons.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because I kind of skimmed over why I really wanted to go into music in the first place. So, I grew up and was always in like my church choir, and then was in this my school choir and musical theater, and I'm a vocalist, so I did a cappella and like recorded albums in college, and just really am passionate about music. Like, I love music. My dad plays the trumpet and bugle, and I just grew up in a really musical family, and just always listening to music and stuff like that. And one day I was actually sitting at a cafe with my friend the day after crying about like not being a doctor, like when actually figured out that that's not what I wanted to be. And I had to tell my parents, and my parents were very supportive. They were like, "We didn't tell you that you needed to be a doctor." And I was like, "I know, but I thought I did." And that kind of thing. And my roommate at the time, we were just studying, and I was looking up, I think, internships and stuff like that. And the radio was playing, and I sang along to every single song on the radio. Like, I knew every single song, all the lyrics, and it was a lot of, I think it was an oldie station, like really old music, like my grandmother would love, my mom. But she actually said to me, she's like, "You just know so much music. Why don't you work in music?" Because, we were brainstorming, like, what could I actually do with this anthropology degree? And it was a friend telling me, like, sometimes even though you're so passionate, like, I feel like music is like just a part of me, my being, if that makes sense. I never thought about it as a career. I never thought that I could be successful in working in like a
Hmm.
passion like music. I thought I had to go after, a more traditional path. And so just having her say that really opened up my eyes. And I tried applying to a couple of internships at traditional labels like Sony and Universal, and I never heard back, of course, cuz it was like on the internet and I didn't know anyone there, and I knew it was going to be really hard to get into it. And it didn't work out for me, but I always in the back of my mind was like, maybe I can make a transition while working in advertising. And so when I went to do the program at that point, I was just super open because I just taken such a huge risk. Like, I quit my stable job. I left, all my family and friends in a new country that I didn't speak the language. And yeah, I think for me, it took someone else to tell me that I should consider working in music for me to actually take the step.
I totally feel what you're saying because I'm also a huge fan of music and I never considered working in the music industry because it was so abstract for me. So I totally get what you mean. Um, so after graduation, like after you graduated from Berkeley, you started working for Harmonics, which is not a very typical career trajectory. You went to work in tech while most of the like my peers and I guess your peers would love to go to the labels and or maybe work in the live sector of music industry or something. You decided to go to tech. Let's talk about that. How it
Yes,
happened and
let's
why.
let's talk about it. So, I did the emerging business models track, which I think maybe called entrepreneurship now. And the reason why I did that was because I've always looked at the music industry and laughed. I've always said, how is this industry so behind? Um, you can, and the answer is that, like, I don't know. But what I do know is that I have some theories, but I'm not gonna get into that on this. Technology has been a constant in really pushing the music industry forward. And we've seen that with, you know, Apple introducing the iPod, with Napster, and like just the digital single and streaming and where we are. Those aren't innovations that were made by the music industry. Those were things that were made by tech people who were interested in tech and bringing music to people and making, like, lowering the barrier to entry for them. And so I just felt like going to a label, even though it would still be a dream to work at a label, like, in another life, I wanna work at one, I wanna be A&R or work in promotions or something like that. But, um, I think for me personally, as I'm a risk taker, and I wanna invest my time and my energy on, like, what's coming and what's new, and how, like, what's I don't know, what's emerging, like the emerging business model. I was very interested in that, which is why I liked was just why I focused on the fashion aspect, because I felt that, that was not the traditional way that people would think about, music and stuff like that. But I I don't know, I just like I just don't like doing what people like the traditional thing anymore. After I said I don't want to be a doctor, I said whatever then. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. And I'll go work in tech.
I love
So,
it.
to be honest, it if you had asked me in the program, "Hey, Alicia, you're gonna go work at a video game studio," I would have been like, "That's weird. Probably not." However, a lot of people kind of pegged me as like the fashion girl, which I didn't love. I think they didn't really know that much about me in the sense like I went to website build like coding camp when I was in middle school, and I've always just been into technology, like making websites, and I love tech. And so I was just super open, and I saw an opportunity to be a product manager, and I want to be a CEO one day, and I want to have my own company, but I didn't have the capital to do that. And there was this opportunity to go be a PM and learn how to bring products to life from 0 to 1 and get this experience. And so for me, I just took it cuz I was like, it's music, I'm passionate about it. I played video games growing up and I love building things. So that's how I went into tech, and I'm don't regret it at all. It's really brought me amazing opportunities, and it's been kind of wild to think about the past 4 years since I graduated, almost 5 years. But yeah, I guess that's how I went into
Yeah,
tech.
sounds like the perfect place for you. And was it hard for you to start working there because you never like? Is it hard to start working in the tech companies when you don't have like tech background?
1000%. I'm just joking. So it was interesting. I showed up at harmonics at like I had played Guitar Hero before, but I wasn't like playing all of their games. And um the game that they're known for is Rock Band. So they developed the first two Guitar Heroes, but I had never played Rock Band, and Band's been around for over 10 years. Like it's kind of embarrassing to admit. So when I was like first day on the job, I told the product manager that I was working with, like, "Hey, I had never played this game before." And he was like, "Great. Like, we need your perspective because we all have played this game so much that like we don't have we're jaded, like we're not jaded, we're biased. Like
Well, first of all,
we
it's so brave of you to say this.
I was like, I cannot lie. So I'm just gonna tell him because I'm already here. So
Yeah,
what's the worst that could happen?"
exactly.
And they just accepted me, and really helped. I think that there was a lot of moments when I was onboarding and you know learning and getting experience in the beginning that was hard because I had never worked in gaming in like the gaming industry before, and I wasn't necessarily like a really big gamer. Like I love games and I love music, but I was someone who came in more from the music side. And so what was difficult was getting up to speed on what like this I didn't have the institutional knowledge that a lot of my peers had. And so that felt difficult with tech. And I think what can also be difficult sometimes is if you're not a really technical person, like I'm not an engineer, it's hard to understand sometimes the language, like the vocab they use or what they're trying to say or the questions they have and stuff like that. But I really spent a lot of time building relationships. That's just my thing. And I feel like if you can do that, people are reasonable and they'll explain things to you. And I learned really quickly. So it was it wasn't the easiest transition, but it wasn't terrible if that makes sense.
Hmm. You made it work, so it's amazing. After spending 3 years in harmonics, right?
Yeah,
I
3
stalked you on
years.
LinkedIn. It said like about three
Okay.
years. You accepted a role in Facebook, which is even a bigger tech company. So what it's like working there and what project manager does? What is it?
Yeah, so I started working at Facebook in 2019 as a product manager, and I work on the creation team specifically. And basically, what it's like being a product manager is just owning the vision and strategy for the product you're working on. So the way I like to describe product management to people is like it's my job to make sure that whatever we build is going to be the best thing for the people that's going to use it. And I would apply that to like any PM job that I have. So my main responsibility is to guide my team in what are we building? What should we be investing in? Is this the right thing? Is this the right design? How do we build this faster? How do we learn from this? And how do we, most importantly, help people, make it easier for people to do whatever they're trying to do every day? So that's kind of what the product manager does. I love the role um, across like both companies that I've worked as a PM so far because you get to work with every single like division of the company or like cross functional partners, and there's no like same day. And it is kind of like the training ground for me for being the future leader that I want to be because I get to influence a, a a group of people, or not a group of people, but like I get to lead my team to be successful and sometimes fail, but that's part of the the learnings. And it's just really awesome. Like I just want to be a leader. So it's just it's I
You
found
cl-
the right job.
you
It took me
clearly
a
have
while.
you clearly have everything a leader should have. So, um, one of the questions that I had for you is, in those tech companies, because you worked in couple already, um, what would you say is the percentage of like tech people and actually like music lovers? Because when I apply or look for jobs in on Apple Music or on Spotify or like Harmonix, most of them are just something very tech and
Mhm.
nothing that I could apply, for example, for. Um, what can you say about that?
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of jobs that do not require technical skills that could allow you to be involved in like the making of something technical, or I don't know, like building a product that is music based, I guess. You don't have to be this technical person to be a part of that team. And there's plenty of roles. There's the product manager, there's marketing. Um, we have, communications and PR, and also, like, part of my job when I worked at Harmonix was choosing the soundtrack for my game that I worked on. And so if I didn't have a musical background, that would have been really bad. And that was like what I used to my advantage. Like I knew music, I studied it, I live it. And so I was like, this is gonna be the best soundtrack ever. And it was. So I'm clearly very humble. And
I mean, I invited you to talk about yourself, so feel free to say anything about yourself.
I what I like to say is that, you know, it's all about how you pitch yourself. It's all about how you frame the work you've done in order to sell yourself for the role. I think job descriptions are just job descriptions. Someone wrote them to describe the job, but that doesn't mean that you have to be exactly what's on the job description. And I don't know the statistic. I wish I did, but there's this statistic around the percentage of men who apply to jobs that have like that see a job description and maybe have like 10% of the meet 10% of the qualifications, they'll still apply. Whereas like women feel like they have to meet 100% of the qualifications. And I'm not saying that's happening. That's like what's happening with like with you or what you asked me, but I felt that way personally. Like, I would always go on job description and be like, "I can't do that,"
Mhm.
or "I don't have that experience." Like, I don't have 10 years of working
Mhm.
in the music industry and whatnot. And I just say, "Go for it." Like, the best thing to do is to find people that work at these companies and even have informational interviews with them. Like, what do you do? Here's what I'm interested in. Like, I didn't see anything on the job boards. Like, what do you recommend? Are there positions that I could, be a part of? And I think at some of these big tech companies, it's really hard to find people who work at those. So I recognize that. But um, I think you just have to go beyond the job descriptions and try to make connections and just see how to get in. But yeah, as long as you can figure out how to spin like your work into what like you need to do, like skills can be transferable.
Mhm. That's a great advice. Thank you. You clearly are a leader. You're very proactive. How would you say do you incorporate your personal interests and advocacy into your work?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think for me, something that I really work on, I feel is one of my strengths is empathy. And I try to have empathy in everything that I do. And as being a product manager, I think on the one scale, it's just like having empathy for the people using the product and understand what they're going through. But also, being a Black woman working in tech, there's not a lot of us in these roles. And so it's really important for me to be able to advocate for things like diversity and representation in my everyday job. And so uh, I do a lot. I go to like a lot of events and try to connect with people who are looking to either get into the industry or need help with something. So just doing kind of informal conversations when I can. And in my everyday work, a big thing that I did when I worked at Harmonix that was how I brought like my personal self into the game I was working on is in the music that we selected for the game and also how the characters looked in the game. And the team was already thinking about what like diversity in the club, but I remember one day I was at work and there was just a bug. This was no one's fault. Where all the characters, and by the way, I guess I didn't explain what I'm talking about. I was a product manager on Dance Central, which is a well-known franchise from Harmonix, and specifically I worked on bringing that game to VR, and which was a launch title for the Oculus Quest, and it also is released on the Oculus Rift. And so we were building a virtual reality club that you can go in and play Dance Central. And in the club, all the people like in the crowd were white. And I was like, I literally took off my headset. And I said in the next meeting, I said, we need to fix this right away. I want to see people of all colors in this club. Also, another thing, we had a wardrobe where you could go and change like your hair and your makeup and your outfit. There was no curly hair. So I sent, the artist like, here's 10 different ways to have, thank you. Thank you. They're beautiful curly hair. Here's, 10 different ways we could do curly hair. And there's curly hair in the game and there's people of all colors in the game. And it felt like the real world. And sometimes I think, it can be intimidating to go into work in tech because as a woman, especially as a person of color, a Black woman, because you're like, oh my gosh, are people going to take me seriously? Like, how am I going to navigate this? And there's no one that looked like me here. Like, what am I going to do? And my approach has always been, instead of feeling like a victim and feeling like, well, it's not diverse, so this sucks for me. How do I advocate for diversity? How do I be the person that really brings a different perspective? How can this be a positive? And I just feel like I'm so proud of that game because I think that the team without me would have also had a diverse crowd because they were thinking through these things. But I just recognized what I contributed, and that was how I made a difference. Even if I was, the only Black woman PM or the only Black woman on my team, I still made an impact by utilizing my differences to create something that more than just the normal gamer could enjoy.
Mhm. Love it. Love it. I love how you don't see yourself as a victim, but on the opposite, you show how much you can bring to the game. To the game.
Yeah, and I also do have the same at the same time, I don't think it's the responsibility of like the only person that has any diversity at a company to fix a company.
Yeah,
That shouldn't
definitely.
fall on that person, but also I recognize that maybe even if you're not in even if you're not in a really diverse team or company or whatever, that doesn't mean that's not it should be diverse because you want your teams to represent the world and have different perspectives. It's very important. Uh Diversity in thought as well. But those things aren't always fixed overnight. And
Mhm.
for me, I just took advantage of the situation and said, "Hey, how can I contribute positively and take this opportunity to just bring a different perspective and really push my team, even if I this shouldn't all fall on me. I'm going to go after it and I'm going to really help us come up with something that we're all proud of and that represents, more
Mhm.
than just one perspective." So,
Love it. So other than bringing all your qualities into your work, you last year you raised $53,000 for COVID-19 relief by yourself, not as a part of the project at work, not as a part of anything, just by yourself. Let's talk about this. This is amazing.
let's talk about it. Thank you so much. Honestly, this was what I've reflected in the past couple of months on this. I think it's every time I hear it, I don't really believe it. It feels even shocking to me that in such a dark time, my little self was able to do something like this. So, you know, they always say that like everything, all the answers are within you. And I never understood that until staying home with Alicia was born. So basically, what happened was I was stuck in shelter in place like everyone else, but I live alone and I was really scared to be alone for that long, like trapped, not just alone because I have to be, or sorry, I was really scared about being isolated for months. Like when they said it was going to be 3 weeks, I knew. I was like, it's going to be longer. I'm going to be by myself in a pandemic. This is terrifying. We didn't know much about COVID at the time. I'm not going to see my parents. Like I lived in California and the Bay Area was the first city to have like the really strict shelter in place where everything was closed. You couldn't go anywhere in the United States, at least. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And I had a moment, where I was like sad for a week. And then I started making these Instagram stories, just showing people what I'm doing. They were really dumb. They were just like, here's how I make turkey bacon. And here it's like MTV Cribs, like here's my studio and this is my glasses cabinet and these are the types of water glasses I have and champagne glasses and wine glasses and like I love like putting a boiled egg and it's in a solo container. I know you can go on my Instagram profile and see them. They're all in the highlights and they're just so embarrassing. And then every day I would end it like, here's my outfit of the day. I'm wearing, socks with slippers and just horrible stuff. I'm embarrassed to watch it now, but people like kept messaging me saying, Alicia, you're really like helping me through the pandemic. And I was like, okay, great. I'm glad my, natural sense of humor and being a clown really resonates with you. And from there, I was like, I feel like we need to have a virtual hang. I feel like I need to brand this thing as like staying home with Alicia. And I started to have like daily episodes. And I love Mariah Carey. Okay. I love Mariah Carey. Like, if I were to die, like, I would put in my will, like, please put a Mariah Carey quote. like song lyric on my grave. Like that's how deep my love for Mariah Carey is. So if you
I
ever
think
listen
it's
to
kind of
this,
the same as my love for Beyonce.
and I love Beyonce as well, I love Beyonce, but yeah, I Mariah is my girl. And so the one of my favorite albums of all times is The Emancipation of Mimi. That album slaps. And so I did this, virtual party. I emailed my friends and I said, "We're going to stop being sad. Everybody dress up, put on some nice clothes. I'll see you Friday night, 6 p.m. I'm going to we're going to listen to the album and then we'll play like some other music after." And yeah, the first party happened. We ended up being on the line till 4 a.m. Starting at 6 p.m. We were all drinking and having fun, and there was no charitable component at that time. It was really just to bring my friends together. And it was just so awesome to have friends all over the world come together on a Zoom. Like that wouldn't have happened if we weren't all stuck inside. And so after I played the album, I played like old school like hip hop and R&B from like the 2000s and 90s, and everyone was just loving it. And I DJ'd. I learned how to DJ when I went to Berkeley, and I had done some DJ things like while in Spain. And so I just had Zoom in the Spotify playlist. Basically, I didn't live mix or anything like that, but I just did what I knew how to do. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll do this every week. We're in shelter in place. And everyone's like, okay, great. And so the next week, it was like, we decided on like Usher. We're going to do an Usher party and listen to the Confessions album. It's iconic. And I texted a friend and I said, hey, I have this idea. What if I charged an optional cover of like $5 to $10, like what you would pay at a club, and we just donate whatever we raise to a cause that's helping people in the pandemic? Because I just really passionate about giving back. I had worked in nonprofit development in the past, and I've done a lot of fundraising for nonprofits throughout my life. But not like on my own, like on a junior board or part of a team. And so I didn't think much of it. I thought we'd raise like $100, and we raised $600 for Pizza versus Pandemic, which is an organization that was helping small businesses affected by the pandemic by ordering pizza and then delivering those pizzas to the healthcare workers at the hospitals so that they could have meals. And from there, I was like, well, I guess we'll do something next week. And we did it for 19 parties. We raised money, and I just kept, promoting it on my Instagram. And then I built a website, like landing page and MailChimp, like email list. And it was crazy. Like, I don't know how I raised $50,000. And let me tell you, it was through Venmo and Cash App. Like, people were sending me this money. I have spreadsheets because I was like, I'm so scared. This is so much money. Like, I want to make sure it gets to the right place. But um we couldn't have done it without also a lot of a lot of my friends helped with making our money stretch, or not sorry, I'm gonna say that I couldn't have done it as well without the friends who donated their corporate matches. So I had a few friends that worked at companies that were matching, some like up to two times the donation that we could provide. They would match whatever we donated. And the biggest night we had, we raised 10,000 in cash, I believe. And we ended up raising $18,000 in one night. And I was just like, this is wild. And it was a unity night that I hosted right after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor tragically were killed. And just talking, there was a lot of conversation in the world really around being Black and Black Lives Matter. And I just really wanted people to come together, and I wanted to help. And I picked 5 organizations that helped uh, specifically with mental health. And that's when we raised like $18,000. And I don't know, it just feels like there's nothing like that feeling of being trapped and not being able to help. And for me, it was just
Mhm.
this really organic thing that happened. Literally, all I had was Spotify, Zoom, and 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 the internet. And that's what I did. I never thought I would raise $53,000. I didn't get paid to do that. That was all volunteer work. I spent a lot of time, like, I made all of my um like all of the art and like the posters for all the parties, and I really took it seriously, and it saved me. It gave me a purpose in a time where I felt hopeless, and I if I could do more, I would. I'm actually thinking about bringing them back this year, because we're still in a pandemic, but yeah, that's how I raised $53,000. It's wild. I don't know how that happened, but we helped a lot of people, and this was all donations from generous friends and family. Like,
I I love this story so much because it shows that all you need, like, you don't need a lot to actually help people. You really don't need a lot. All you needed was Zoom, like internet, and like Spotify. That's it. And you
yeah,
helped
that's
so
it.
many people. I love it. And I mean, it started as a joke, but like a game or fun, but I really love how it ended up, and it's amazing. Thank you really for helping others. I'm pretty sure everybody's very helpful for you, and like not only you helped other people like with money, you also helped a lot of your friends by just providing this platform and just having fun and like distracting from all these problems. It's amazing, Alicia.
Absolutely. We have, like, people became friends, that, like, my friends that had never met each other became friends through this, and we really built a community, and the fundraising was just the icing on the top.
Hmm.
For me, it was really about the community we were building, and it was just so special. It was
Hmm.
so special, and I'm so grateful that I was the vehicle, I guess, for
Yeah.
that to happen, because I do feel like it was a bigger thing that was driving me to do it.
Hmm.
And I also think it was something I didn't mention, but, you know, I have always, as someone who wants to be an entrepreneur and wants to be successful in whatever endeavors I do, I always feel like I overthink. Like, I try really hard to say, like, how am I gonna come up with something that's gonna be amazing? And then I was like, what if you just are yourself? You just did something that is incredible. Like, you raised $50,000 in your living room. Um, that's wild. Like, with no resources besides like what you already have. And I think it taught me other lessons, like, about my career, and you know, even if I'm not working on like a music project at the moment, I created a music project for myself outside of my everyday job, and that just felt great. Like, I feel like I you can make your own opportunities even if they're not what you expect them to be. You can still be connected to whatever you want to do in music and whatnot. So, I don't know if any of that made sense, but
It
I
does. It
just I just
perfectly
I
does.
just felt like, I don't know, until I like do the thing that I'm gonna do, that I don't know what I'm gonna do in my career, but that was just awesome, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Um, do you ever feel burnt out?
Yes, all the time.
How do you deal with
So,
this?
okay, I think for me, like, it comes and goes. My actual job is my number one priority. So anything outside of work, it's gonna be, on my free time, and really supplemental. I think at a point I did feel burnout from the dance party specifically, because I was burnt out at work because I hadn't taken any vacation. Like, I looked at my PTO last year, and I took 0 days for like until November, of the year, which is wild. And so I just really advocate for understanding what your boundaries are in whatever you're doing, and making sure you prioritize yourself within those. So for me, it's closing my computer, at 6 p.m. or 7, whenever, not looking at my phone on the weekends, making sure I take walks or get some exercise and connect with friends or just honestly sit and watch TV and not talk to anyone. Um, the dance parties were hard because I felt at some point like, oh my gosh, I'm tired from work. I'm tired from this pandemic. And like, but I have to do this because my friends are depending on me, you know? And honestly, I told them and they were like, Alicia, take a break. Like, take a month break. And I was like, okay. And then I changed the cadence of the parties from weekly to bi weekly to then we did like monthly in the end. And I think just really, I don't do a great job of escalating those things to myself until it's at the point where I'm burnt out. And so
Mm,
I'm trying to work more on recognizing what leads to burnout and trying to pump the brakes before I'm burnt out, because once you're burnt out, that's it. At the end of the year, I took a lot of I took like weeks off of work, which was amazing, and I got to go and visit my family, and after not seeing them for a year, and that was really wonderful. But I think the advice I have there is just find whatever helps you like decompress or whatever. I don't know, like some people meditate, some people, exercise, some people watch TV, they hang out with friends, they travel and stuff like that. So I just say whatever it is and just set those boundaries for yourself, or make it and make sure that you prioritize your
mhm.
mental health, because if you're going too hard and you get burnt out, you're not going to be able to like finish the marathon, you know?
Definitely.
And it's not a sprint. So that was so corny, but that's how I feel.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Um, what would you say are your life highlights?
Whoo, my life highlights. I think that my life highlights are just, I don't know, I feel like everything is a highlight. I'm really blessed, and I I've gotten so many opportunities. My parents worked really hard to send me to a school that would open doors for me, and I have, I don't know, I just have a lot of I'm privileged in that aspect, and I'm really grateful that, I was able to leave home and go to college. And I think moving to Spain and being able to travel in Europe for the first time and travel alone and do all these things were just it, it's a priceless opportunity that I had that was just a highlight in my life. And it wasn't just about being in Europe, living in Europe and traveling to Europe. It was about being on my own and exploring new places and meeting different people and feeling like I could do whatever I want. And that's how I feel. Like after I came back from Spain, I was like, I can do whatever I want. I moved to Boston, then I moved to San Francisco. Like I'll probably move somewhere else one day, I don't want to, but I just think having all like everywhere I've lived has been a highlight. Like growing up in Louisiana was amazing. Being able to go to Chicago, then Valencia, then Boston, now the Bay Area, like it's just incredible. I feel like I've accomplished so much, and I'm only, 31. And I just have no regrets on how I moved through my life. And so yeah, I would say the highlights are all the cities I lived in, cuz they each brought me like a unique life experience, and it wasn't always easy. I had a lot of tough moments, but I love it.
That's beautiful. Um, how would you define success for yourself?
Okay, so I'm really hard on myself when it comes to success. And I have to tell myself I'm successful. I have to remind myself that I'm successful, because I think I have one of those personalities where no matter how much I achieve, just want to achieve. And I think recognizing that about myself was really critical in the past year, because I raised $53,000, right? And we were like, "Whoa, that's a lot." But honestly, after it was all said and done, I didn't really feel like I did anything. And that's I probably should talk to my therapist about this, but I think the reason why I reacted to this question is because or I know that I want to make a big impact in the world, and I just feel like I haven't done that. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. And so I recognize that like my perception of what is success and what others think of what is success is a lot different. And so so for me, I think as long as I'm growing and I am continuing to have impact in my everyday life with whether that's my relationships with friends or family, um, things I do to give back in the community, or how I, perform at work, and those are moments of joy, then that's success for me. I feel like I don't want to chase like this idea of happiness. It's like, what are the things that bring me joy? And if I can achieve that, then that is success. Do I feel that way every day? No, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it because I definitely am like type A overachiever. Like there's no question about that, and it's not healthy sometimes because you know what is the purpose? What is our purpose on this earth? And I think about that a lot, and I just am like, I need to do something that helps a lot of people, and it just hasn't helped. It hasn't happened yet, so just keep going, and then you're successful. And I don't know. That's not the best attitude to have. So I'm trying to be nicer to myself and congratulate myself more.
You probably have this feeling just because you know that you'll do bigger things. And as you said, as you understand that you haven't done it yet, that's why you're just like, okay, so I did this great thing. What is my next great thing, right?
Right. No, I love that. And I feel like that sounds kind of, I don't know how that sounds, but I definitely know that I'm not done.
Hmm.
But I, I'm trying to, I'm trying to change my mindset around success because I've just focused so much on myself and my career and what I want to do. And like, girl, you did it. Like you, you got out, like you got your dream job. It's like you did it. Like even if, and I tell myself, even if this is the last job I ever have, in my life, like if this is how it ends, you did something so amazing, and I'm so proud of you, Alicia. That's what I have to tell myself because I don't wanna get to the point where my life passes by and I just feel like I'm not good enough
Hmm.
because I didn't hit the level that I thought. Because I don't think there's a level. I think it's just the sky's the limit, it's infinite, so I don't know. I saw you shaking your head, so I feel like that resonated with
It
you.
does. It does. um, well, now that we're done with the like official part of the interview, I would ask you some very quick questions. Some of them are silly, so we may laugh. Um, do you have any book, movie, and song recommendations?
Yes, I do. Okay, so book, movie, and song,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, so book recommendations. I recently have been reading a lot of fiction with my book club, and I prefer nonfiction, so I'm gonna have a nonfiction recommendation. I recommend everyone read Bad Blood. Um, it's about the scandal with Elizabeth Holmes. It's by John Carreyrou. It's called Bad Blood: Secrets and Lies in Silicon Valley. Sorry, I butchered the name. And uh, Elizabeth Holmes was do you know who she is? She was the first like self-made billionaire named by Forbes, and like this woman who was, supposedly this like incredible, you know, entrepreneur coming up, and brilliant person in the health tech industry, and it was all a lie, and like it's so much scandal, and it is like a crazy story, and I just feel like everyone needs to read it uh because yeah, it's wild like what people do to I do believe that she really wanted to succeed in her mission, but the way that they went about it was just so sketchy and just unbelievable. So definitely recommend that. And for movie, let's see. What movies? I love watching movies. I think that if you haven't watched Sister Act 2, because that's my favorite movie of all time, definitely watch it because Lauren Hill's in it. And it's incredible. Whoopi Goldberg. It's very old. It's from the 90s. And then song I would recommend. I have this one of my favorite bands. They're no longer a band, or they were like a duo. They're called Quadrin, and they're uh they're this Danish like soul electro soul group, and I'm obsessed with them. And there's a song called Sea Salt that is just so funky and a vibe. I like a lot of music that's slow. And I don't know, I just love that song, so check it out.
Thank you so much. I've never heard about this duo. I would love to check them. Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh my god, this is so just I can't even say it out loud because that's how bothered I am by this man. Reggae Jean Page. If you hear this, I'm available. And I don't know if y'all watch Bridgerton, but let me tell you, okay? That man, that's all I'm gonna say. Just go watch Bridgerton. That's all I'm gonna say. Cause whoo,
Ooh, okay.
I just that's it. That's all I can say on the podcast.
You're so funny. What is the most useless talent that you have?
I'm really good at remembering song lyrics, and I don't need to. I like know song. I just like know lyrics to like every song that I like. Like old stuff. Like I'm really good at song lyrics. Like I'm good at the trivia
Hmm.
stuff, but it's not like I do trivia all the time. So I think that's useless.
I
That's a
mean,
useless
yeah,
talent.
yeah. But I mean, you have a good memory, so that's good.
I definitely have a good
Yeah.
memory. Very good memory. But
uh,
that is useful.
yeah, yeah. And the last question for you is, who inspires you the most?
Wow, who inspires me the most? Hmm. Mariah Carey, because she is a butterfly and she's so inspiring. She had a really hard upbringing and childhood, and despite all of that, she's been able to share her talent and her gifts with the world, and I just love her. She's a diva and she's amazing singer, and yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to be pushed around wearing heels in a rolling chair by your security? Like, isn't that the goal?
I will tell you, some people don't. So, but as a fan of Beyonce, I get understand you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was a funny one. I love you, Mariah. But on a serious note, I will say my friends inspire me the most. All of my friends are just doing incredible things, and they just they say surround yourself with people who or you are who you surround yourself with. I think that's the phrase, and I really surround myself with just incredible human beings that accept me and challenge me, and I'm really inspired by them every day, and I call them my best friends. I have multiple, so I'm not going to say anyone's name so I don't get in trouble. But you know who you are. I love you and you inspire me.
That's beautiful, Alicia. Thank you so, so much for this conversation. You are so inspiring. You are truly inspiring. You're such a diva yourself. Uh, I think there's a
It's
lot
an
to
honor.
I think there is a lot to learn from you, and I am so excited to share our conversation with others.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And you are inspiring. I'm so happy that you asked me to do this. I think this is such an just an incredible concept and listen to, some of the episodes and I'm excited for the future ones and it's just really amazing that you're doing this. So thank you so much.